Welcome to Venture Step Podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. What happens when AI can generate creative variations in seconds that used to take a team of 5 people a week to produce? The agency landscape is shifting from selling hours to selling outcomes. We're exploring the new initiatives that are allowing firms to slash internal costs while increasing revenue for their clients. Today on the show, we have RJ Talyor, the CEO and founder of Backstroke. RJ is a 2X founder with 20 years of experience in digital marketing and the marketing tech space. He is a early leader at Extract Target, which was acquired by Salesforce, later founded Pattern 89, a creative AI platform that was successfully acquired by Shutterstock, and he's now at the helm of Backstroke, using his deep industry knowledge to help firms evolve their digital marketing efforts and eliminate the overhead that traditionally bogs down creative production. Welcome to the show, RJ.
Hey, thanks, Dalton. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
I think we'll just jump right in on the show. The first thing that we'd like to dive in on, and definitely maybe informative to the group and the listeners, is just maybe an overview of a couple minutes from your perspective of how has this workflow shifted in the last, I would say, like an overview of like the last 5 versus like the last year and a half, how it has changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, digital marketing agencies have, I mean, it's been like a wild, wild ride in the last 10 years, really. And, in or like in 2015 ish, 2016, all these machine learning algorithms started emerging that really impacted the digital ad buying and bidding process. And a lot of these digital marketing agencies made a lot of money on kind of on managing your ad spend on platforms like Facebook or I guess now Meta, as
Mm-hmm.
well as in Google. And, that's kind of bread and butter for agencies. And then there were new solutions that came out from Google and Facebook that allowed you to automate a lot of that. So, like the humans that were running spreadsheets no longer really had to do that. So then it became those folks started saying, all right, let's focus on creative. And instead of on optimizing for cost per click or CPM or cost per outcome, let's optimize the creative. These same digital marketing agencies do everything from SEO to your retention marketing to your website to positioning to strategy, all of it. And but I really think that the big shift happened with the kind of the bidding and the optimization of those ad spends. And then in the last 5 years, with the emergence of GPTs, for like GPT-3 was kind of the first one that went mainstream about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Copywriters started saying, wait, the machine can write the copy instead of me. Now the human creative process is interrupted. And then those LLMs started getting better and better. And now we have platforms that people can use to create, replicate photo shoots. So like, Nano Banana or other similar platforms allow you to create content that is remarkably good. And for the last like 3 to 5 years, all the creatives have been saying, well, hey, the optimization people who have been interrupted by these machine learning algorithms, their jobs are in peril, but my job isn't, because I'm the creative. I'm the person that creates all this content. I'm the photographer. You can't replace that. But now that's a question, as these models have gone from showing 6 fingers, sausage fingers,
Mm-hmm.
weird situations, to being very, very believable and on brand and beautiful, in addition to performance. So it started with kind of the numbers and the data crunching, and then emerged into the words that marketers use, and now it's into the creative assets. And I think that if you asked any agency at any point in the last 20 years, what's your differentiation? They would say strategy. They would say, hey, we're really strategists. We understand your brand, we understand it, et cetera. But now agencies really have to deliver on that, because the creative production, the optimization of ad spend, et cetera, is all really using you're using the same set of tools likely that your competitors are using, and the true differentiation comes in how you apply that judiciously, taste, brand, positioning, those types of things, which are very strategic and ultimately human. So I'm not sure I did the like all of it, but that's how I see it. It's like a pretty stark adjustment in the last 10 years, and that creative, like the insertion into the creative process, I think is accelerating at the fastest pace today as we talk.
No, I think it's a great overview. And just double clicking into the Nano Banana comment, I actually did a podcast, a demo of different things that you could do with the Nano Banana model. It's not, that's
Yeah,
not actually a name, but that was the moniker that caught on as a joke, and
yeah.
then Google renamed it. I think it people were calling it Nano Banana on TikTok, went viral, and then Google was like, okay, fine, I'll change the name to Nano Banana because everyone knows it's Nano Banana. But I was taking models that had their like they had say a tan shirt and like
Mhm.
jeans, and then I was just clipping different outfits off of Pinterest,
Yeah,
and then saying, hey, I need you to switch the clothes that this model's wearing to this
right.
outfit,
Yes.
and then I want to change the background from like a tan balanced, I know, with lighting. I want it to be like more aggressive and like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a photographer, but I try my best, and the results were legit. They were more legit than I would expect. Like to do that in like 30 seconds without having. I mean, people can. I mean, I would be, if I was a model, I'd be upset. Like, okay, like I was paid for this, and
Yeah.
like you're doing these things to me, like altering the photo. Like you didn't pay me to do that, so I would be upset about that. But I'm just talking about the aspect of the model and being able to
Mhm.
use it to basically change or completely alter what the offering was in
Yes.
20 seconds. And
Mhm.
I'm not even an expert, so if you were an expert, you could really get a lot of power and use out of that.
Yes, yeah, there's some remarkable things that you can do with that technology, and there's lots of implications there. I mean, certainly the thousands and thousands of dollars that are spent on photo shoots can be replaced in some cases by doing exactly what you're talking about, like replicating a pose or a shot with a different set of imagery. And it's interesting because, and then you can also animate that. You can change out backgrounds. You can change out things. There's brand implications to that. There are ethical implications to it. Who's getting paid, who's not getting paid, what's in the contract, etc. There's also legal things to consider because in New York, and I believe one more state, in June, there is now going to be or there's a law that you have to disclose that the image was generated if it includes a human with a disclosure there. So I'm not sure how they're going to police that or fine people for it or whatever. But there's lots and lots of implications there. But on the back to like how brands or agencies are thinking about it is we can do it more cheaply. We can do it with more inclusive model sets, including like people of different skin tones, body types, et cetera, without having to pay for those human models to be there. We can show the clothes in different applications or the products in different applications in a way that we've never been able to do. And, in some cool ways, it'll allow smaller brands to compete with larger brands who have those larger budgets and look bigger than they are, et cetera. But there is a human consequence in that the model is not being paid, the photographer is not being paid, the lighting person is not being paid, the person who provides all the snacks is or
Mhm.
coordination of it all. I mean, like those are jobs. What will those people do instead, and how will they differentiate? I think it will just become more and more competitive. So, and then there's this like backlash. Consumers tend to say, "I don't want to be lied to," and maybe they'll distrust brands that they perceive as AI. But I've actually been tracking that. Most consumers can't tell the difference between an AI generated image and a one that's an actual image. So
Yeah, you
there's a
can't
lot of
tell
like
nowadays.
skepticism and doubt and whatever that enters into the picture as well. So it's a funny world, Dalton. Like just a funny like place where no one actually has the right answer, and everyone's kind of looking on the sidelines, uh, trying stuff, trying to stay out of trouble, and they don't want to be the example that everybody points to as the bad
Points, yeah.
actor in the space. But yeah,
Getting
certainly
there on the
technology is a
video
tool.
side too, RJ. We're getting to the video eventually. I think maybe a year from now, we might have video that is pretty hard to tell the difference between like what was actually filmed versus like what is AI generated. And that's a whole
Yes.
different topic. But I know that you talked about because that could be an episode in itself,
Yeah,
just talking
totally.
about the ethical implications, but and just how does the world react. But you talked about how there's just a massive shift ongoing in this space, and there's a lot less manual work than there used to be. Like you don't necessarily need a copyright team that is churning out as many articles or content creation. You don't necessarily need as many people doing Photoshop, or you don't need as many photographers, or you don't need a pipeline of models with different body types and skin tones. So you get to this point, like what you'd mentioned, like these are actual jobs. So people are they're actually good at this niche in the industry. What what would you suggest, like as a skill shift for them?
Well, I think the need for that imagery is the same. Marketers want it, so become an expert in the latest tools to serve those industries. That would be my play. You know, not everybody can um,
Mhm.
maybe jump up and become well skilled on it, but I actually would argue that you could because it's so early. If you can become the expert in how to apply nano banana, filters and technology, or even as you're describing, like the video stuff is just emerging, dig in and be the person that experiments and drives the difference there. Because I do see people kind of falling into three camps. One is people in the industry saying, "Hey, this model is evolving, and we're jumping, or this business model is evolving. We're jumping forward. We're going to be the early adopters." I see people saying, "No, I've been in this industry for 20 years, like me, and this is another flash in the pan, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm just going to hold on." And then I see maybe the biggest group of people saying, like, "I'm frozen. I'm paralyzed. I'm not sure what to do. I'm just going to kind of watch everything and then let somebody else tell me what to do." And I think that those are all options. But what I would recommend is like dive in, play, try, experiment. Because if I could be a photographer who also knows, you know, if I'm a photographer and I know how to do Photoshop, like let's rewind 10 years ago, that's a very valuable photographer, because I can do the photography as well as the editing. And if I can do photography, Photoshop to edit things, and also be an expert in some of these generative tools, you got a trifecta there.
Hmm.
So it's kind of just a constant evolution. And some people are saying, no, 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 I'm a photographer only. I'm a purist. I'm only going to be a photographer. I'm not going to do any of the production work or the after the
I guess
production.
post production. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, post production, and it's like, well, okay. I mean, that is a choice for you to be the best photographer.
Mhm.
But I would be expanding my toolkit across all these technologies um, to take advantage of that. So that's what I would do.
I think that's fair. I think the waves coming with or without you. I had a conversation with my friend a couple of years ago. He was kind of freaking out, and he was like, "I don't know what to do. Like this is scary. Like this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like 5 years. I don't want to be a doomer, but like 5 years from now, like my industry's gonna like should probably completely change, and like I
Hmm.
don't necessarily know what what I should do." I was like, either ride the wave or you don't. Like it's
Yeah.
coming. So it's gonna either react to it, or you ride it, or you
Yeah.
you you watch it happen. Either or.
Yep.
Speaking of waves, so what are the waves that Backstroke is making? So can you talk about like how there was two really cool things that you talked about when we had met prior, was like there's this proprietary data set that you use to help drive the curation of
Hmm.
these Gen AI assets that is different than like if I was just doing it myself. Like if I just did it myself, I would not get the same results as what you would get at Backstroke using the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah, so we built this data set. We started the business about a year and a half ago to generate marketers' email campaigns. But about 4.5 years ago, I started signing up for every email marketing program I could find,
Mm,
and like literally, I've signed up for thousands and tens
that's
of
brutal.
thousands at this point. And now we've automated a lot of it, but the idea was to amass a giant data set that we could understand things like what types of content are people sending, are brands sending, what types of offers are they offering at what times of day or what times of week or what times of year, how are they describing those either visually or in text, what colors, what fonts, what is that pattern month over month, year over year, etc. And then, excuse me, and then we use all of that data as a training set so that when Backstroke generates content, we generate content that is aligned with the day or the time of year or the cycle that the brand is in, not just generating content off the bat. The other thing that we did was we started building up our own data set of consumer preferences. And so somebody who lives in New York, who is of a certain gender, who has certain income and certain age, has lots of different preferences than someone who might look similarly but live in Indianapolis, where I live. And we've captured that through surveys and research on a quarterly basis and use that to take, in combination with our data set, generative content that is not only predictive of trends, but also predictive of performance. So yeah, it's a cool data set. We're still digging into it to find new ways to do cool stuff. But that was the base for Backstroke and what sets us apart in the landscape.
The aspect of that is an interesting one where you were able to get a lot of times it is like you have an idea, you do the idea, but I've seen it over the years, the last, I don't know, you used to call it last 4.5 years. Like there's these companies that come out and then it gets a little bit of traction. And then there's a massive company that's like, okay, like we're going to do that.
Yeah,
And then it's like this question of like, is it a feature or a product of what
yeah,
is being built? But if you have this extra piece of guidance in this data set and this additional data that helps curate and optimize the output of what is being generated, then
yeah,
that's clearly a product versus a feature. But if it was like, okay, like we're using Nano Banana just to generate this content, then anyone can really do it. But without that data, it's not going to be nearly as good. And
yeah,
and the guidance that you're able to provide by like individual demographic and area geographic area is quite interesting. How does this get generated for like on a client side? Like if I were to contract with Backstroke, like how does that work? I'm just kind of curious
yeah. So
because
when you start with,
I think about trying to automate like my workflow to where
mhm,
I can maybe provide you my mailing list or something like
mhm,
that, or my target customer, and then from there, like here's my current click through rate, and here's like my click through to purchase, and then I need to optimize this. Like it's too low. Like how
yeah,
do I bring this up a couple percent or half a
yeah.
percent?
So we would start by connecting into your messaging platform and taking those subscribers. Let's say you have 1 million subscribers on your list. We'll profile them. We use a few different data services to help understand who's on that list. Are they men or women? Are they certain ages? Are they, certain demographics? And then we'll also look at the performance of those audiences to understand what's working um, by demographic or by kind of subsegment or cluster. And then we'll compare that to our data set to say, hey, here's what's different. Here's over indexing, under indexing, etc. And that then serves as the base model. We'll also ingest all of the creative that you've used in the past, as well as your brand standards, to understand kind of what your creative vibe is. And then by generating content for each of those audiences or sub audiences, will we provide predictive content generation. And the result is that we always end up tailoring the content more to the individuals And when people get more of what they want, they tend to open click and convert at a higher rate. So that's how we do what we do with Backstroke. And it's kind of what a normal marketing team or agency would do, but the difference is that we're using AI to identify patterns that humans are incapable of finding, and we're using a massive data set that hasn't existed before. So it's like 7 steps ahead of what you could do with a human counterpart, and it feels like we're just kind of getting started because ultimately what people want or what marketers want is to individualize messaging. So all million people on your list might get a different message. That's where we're headed. But the problem with that today is trust. And how do marketers feel about a million different variants of things that they haven't seen or QA'd with their own human eyes go out the door? So that's, getting from here to there is what the mission is for Backstroke in the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing that it's basically, I would describe it, I mean, oversimplifying it, but a firm-based model. Like it's a model based on the firm, and it's an individualized firm-based model that's built on like a large data set of either their stuff plus a little bit of like your guys' proprietary data to create this merged firm-based model of you. And then it takes all of their company's mailing lists, and there's some data connections in the background, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, the output is like, hey, we can provide better marketing campaigns than you could provide. Maybe you could still do it, but it would take you a lot longer. And
Yeah.
also we can move much faster than you would be able to move if it was just humans. And
Yes.
then the humans would still be able to review the content before it goes out. But it's an interesting thing that you were talking about, because like there'd be like human in the loop at the end, probably, right?
Yeah.
At this stage of like the world and technology. But then you were talking about a little bit of like in the future, there would be a want and or requirement to individualize messaging
Yeah.
for, say, in this example, 1 million people, which
Mhm.
one is like super cool. And I think email lists are, I don't know if they're completely slept on, but I think they're under optimized, right? And
Yes.
like this company Backstroke helps optimize this treasure trove of potential customers. I think that people have email marketing lists, but like they never seem like they are customized to that person. And I'm subscribed to, and I'm a weirdo like yourself. Like I'll subscribe to companies or I'm like, okay, they've got a cool brand messaging. So I mess up the data. Like you definitely mess up the data when you're subscribing to all those email marketing lists. And she's like, okay, well, I've got all these people that I'm interested in, but you're not necessarily purchasing stuff. You just want to look at their stuff.
Right.
I do the
Yeah.
same thing, but if you're not a weirdo, you're not doing that. And so when you're subscribed to the company, you most likely are interested in their products.
Yes.
And it's just that the message isn't capturing your attention, or the call to action isn't personalized enough to you at that moment, or you're catching me
Right.
at the wrong time. Like
Yep.
there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. Like when are people typically, if you had data of like when are people typically on their phone, like within that, I mean, sometimes you can get a little like Big Brother, but like if you
Yeah.
had data on, okay, this is the stuff that they'd want, but currently we're sending it when they're the most busy. Like you wouldn't know if they're in a whole bunch of meetings, but like you would be able to know like when they're typically eventually.
Yeah.
I would think when are people most active on social media, or when are they
Yeah.
most active on their phone, and
Yeah.
then that's when you should probably send it a
Yeah.
personalized message. But you could also send a personalized message, but then they're just super busy, so they don't look at it in time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a balance between personalization and being creepy,
Yeah,
and consumers tell us over and over and over again that they um, want personalized content. Like they do want it, um, as long as it is like personalized and not creepy. And then the challenge is that brands don't have enough time to create all that content, or they haven't had enough to create that content. So like Dalton, you might want over the ear headphones and I want AirPods, you know? So like now I've got to create two versions of a campaign that go out the door. And, you know, maybe somebody else on the list wants, you know, those earbuds that go, or the headphones that go behind your head. So if I'm like Best Buy or an electronics retailer and I want to sell earphones, now I have to create three different variations of my email, and I have to
Mm.
have three different photo shoots in order to account for that. And you
Three different
know, now you just
approvals,
go down.
internal approvals as well.
Right, all of it. So, you know, our teams are not currently set up to execute with the current tool set all of those different content campaigns. But the tools have changed, and that's where like generative allows us to do something totally different. And that's the foundation of Backstroke, which is pretty fun, and why we're, you know, digging into this area, because the opportunity to personalize is there. The technology is now there, and we are working with leading brands today to solve that problem, which is pretty fun.
I find it incredibly interesting the opportunity that you are attacking with Backstory. I
Yeah,
just like the whole concept is quite cool. Like there's currently a problem being solved, but then it scales to like this thing that like you wouldn't really even be able to, like, you wouldn't really understand. Like you can understand the direction, but you don't necessarily understand like how it would happen. You know, like
yeah,
how do you have 1 million individualized email campaigns? But
yeah.
curious on the now is when you contract with a firm and you have this firm built model and it it has, say, maybe there's some kind of testing phase and it's okay, like it has our brand image slash language dialed, we're dialed in, we're good with it. Does that speed up the ability for people to iterate? And then is there, from like curation to out the door, is much faster given that there isn't that many moving parts? And then
Yeah.
also I think if the if that stuff is dialed, like I said, then there's just less time that needs to be taken to like go through the whole approval process.
Yes, is the answer to that question. It is once we have a brand configuration. Sometimes we call it the brand brain.
Hmm.
But you know, you kind of brief in that part of the product once, and as long as it knows your fonts, colors, tone, style, taste that are all included in your brand guide, then it can create variants that are all on brand. And suddenly, you as a human, like as a creative director, or you as a content strategist, get to review content instead of creating the content. And you know, Backstroke and these AI tools are great for lots of things, not everything. I think that human creativity is still very much required. I have a master's in creative writing, so I come from a very creative background, and I believe in the power of creativity. But it's kind of that whole thing I was talking about earlier, like brand or agencies and brand teams would say like, oh, I'm really good at strategy. I'm really good at taste. Like I have good taste. I'm a curator of content, like that type of stuff. But we spend all of our time, and actually a lot of agencies cost out, like what you buy is hours. You buy hours of production time, or you buy a number of emails created. You don't buy, like in the strategy, a lot of times is included because it's hard to quantify how many strategies you get or how much strategy you get. You know, it's like how much time did I think about you? You know, those are the things
Mm.
that are always, it's like tough to quantify. You know, so instead, they've gone to output. And I think that the output is going to be the byproduct of that strategy and what you're going to end up buying and be interested in. And we as humans have to really be good at ideas, creativity, strategy, taste, curation, those types of things, which are all like softer skills and harder to um, quantify in a contract.
Mm.
And it's also harder to describe on a resume, for example. and put on your LinkedIn page or put into a portfolio. I mean, you can kind of do it, but kind of not. So I don't know. It's a no, I'm just off on the side note here, but like it's like a if we were used to charging by the hour or charging by the product, and instead we need to charge by the like gigawatt of thought. I'm not sure how you do that, but that's what ultimately is going to differentiate the winners from the average.
And you're not the only one thinking about that. I do know in legal, typically you
Yeah,
charge hour, you billable hours, emails, research, all that stuff.
yeah,
But with recent models and updates and startups that are specializing in law, a lot of that research and verification piece that is the bulk of the work is kind of, I wouldn't say completely fleshed out, right? Like not there yet, but it's
hmm
getting to the point in the coming years that it's billed by case, not necessarily case size,
yeah,
not a how many hours did I work on that case,
yeah,
which is a
yeah,
big shift. Like a lot of people probably don't want to do that because, well, it's pretty profitable to just charge like, okay, my minimum billing is 30 minutes. So I wrote an email. It took me 5 minutes to write that email. I'm billing 30. And then so you just get all this extra time that
yeah,
you're billing 60, but you're working, in this example, 40 or something.
yeah, yeah. You know, I spent last week. I was at this event on the West Coast that was put on. It was an executive retreat with
Mhm.
about 50 e-commerce executive leaders from brands that you would know. It's put on by Commerce Next, and the number one thing that all of those executives were talking about was time efficiency and how much time can we save on with AI, and how much time can we put back onto our teams. No one was saying let's get rid of people. Instead, they
Mhm.
were saying, "Hey, our smart humans are spending so much time doing mundane tasks like renaming files, or cropping photos, or retouching things, or pulling lists, or creating a report." And one of those executives said that their company was had a certain number of hours saved. They were tracking on a dashboard that they review in their weekly exec team meeting, and they had a specific goal of X thousand hours that they wanted to save in the next year. So it's the time saved piece is I think critical on the executive's mind in these e-com brands that we work with or retail brands. And what they want to do is say, hey, you have that time that you were renaming photo files,
Mhm.
go and do something human. Go and do something that differentiates our brand. Think. And I was really encouraged by that because maybe the answer is great if we can get, half the time, then we only need half the person. But they're like, no, no, no. We want the person. We want the person thinking, not doing mundane, repetitive work. And, that's kind of encouraging to me. And so, kind of going back to the question you asked earlier about like, what would you recommend to those people? It's like, well, get really good at these AI things because what your company actually wants is you to be thinking and creating and strategizing and those types of things. And we've been held back a lot by just like the TPS report that's due on Friday that now we can automate.
Sorry, what does TPS stand for?
I'm showing my age. That's really funny. Um, the t- so I'm 47, and there's a movie called The Office. Do you know The Office?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
haven't watched the
or
show, but The
oh no, no,
Office. Yeah,
not the wait. It's Office, The Office, right? Isn't it or like
yeah,
the
The Office. Yeah.
Office Space? No, it's Office Space is the movie.
Oh,
Sorry, not The Office, the
okay.
show. It's a movie called Office Space, and the guy is famous for kind of going nuts for because the boss keeps asking him for his TPS report, and
Okay.
nobody knows what TPS means. It's just like a stupid like I got my TPS report due on Friday, so
Uh-huh.
I'm only laughing because I'm old.
I'll look it
TPS
up. So it's called The
reports.
Office Space.
Office Space. This is called Office
Yeah,
Space.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll watch the movie.
It's Dalton. You're welcome. You're gonna love it. It's really funny. It's a great. I mean, it's like a GPS reports. It's funny.
So it's just a thing that you need to do, like
It's just like the
cross
dumb
off your
report that's
list.
due every week. That
Mm.
is the GPS report. I don't know what it stands. I don't think it stands for anything. It's just what they
Uh,
called it.
I thought it was some kind of marketing thing. So it's like, okay, I want
No.
to. I don't
Yeah.
know that, and I don't think the people on the show know it. So that's why I was asking. But if it's a movie reference, then yeah, maybe I'm the only one out on this one. You know,
Oh,
like
I think it's like a generational. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm older than you. So it's
yeah, I'm 27.
yes.
So
Yeah, I think hopefully there's another person in my age bracket listening to this who's
I
like
think there for sure is. When I look at the analytics, there is.
CPS
So
reports.
TPS reports. There's somebody's giggling this whole situation. The inside joke.
Mm.
I think those are good points where you. Oh, did you drop your coffee?
No, I just dropped my. No,
Oh,
not the coffee. Luckily,
okay, because that would have been bad. The
yeah,
I think you made some good points about like time saved and then transitioning that time saved to higher value tasks is how I would phrase it. I think that's the essence of a lot of larger companies. Like they just have antiquated systems. Things are
yeah,
old. There's got all this manual process, got this manual overhead. You call it tech debt or whatever it may be, but people have to do a whole bunch of manual stuff. Like
hmm,
typically you wouldn't think that there's this much manual stuff, but like there's people's jobs where like probably 7% of their job, 6% of their job is just manual work. They're good employees. They're great, but they're just stuck in that
yeah,
role until the company transitions the technology out and like transitions like the current technology out to some kind of new platform. But that's always kind of last on the list potentially because there's other initiatives that seemingly always take priority. So
yeah.
I think these kind of offerings and opportunities with AI in the future, you can build things that can automate tasks that are manual that free up good talent. And of course,
Yes,
if you don't have the right talent at your company, then you can go a different direction. But if you already have good talent, then you want to keep your good talent. Good talent's hard to find. And
yes,
then the other counterpoint is if you're just starting something, you need less people to get started. So like you
yeah,
can be a little bit more lean. Whereas before, like if you needed to do something and it's either we have got to do this vendor thing that's going to cost 50 plus grand a year, or I've got to hire a whole bunch of people to like do this or do some outsourcing piece because I can't afford to like hire all these people full time. Well, you could vibe code some kind of contraption to help you out, and maybe you need a third or a half of what the resources you need prior.
yes, totally. Yeah, I mean, we think about that at Backstroke. It's how do we build with a smaller team, and you have to think AI first, which is tricky. Again, like I'm of a generation. I built software companies my whole life, and
Mhm.
it's not been that way. You don't think, or I've had to like catch myself and say, no, 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 we need to do that AI first, which means can we code it with Cursor instead of asking a software engineer to do it, and the software engineer becomes a QA person, or how do we build a QA agent to do the QA, and then have a software engineer who understands the whole system oversee it, or how do we have a security expert or somebody who's familiar with SOC 2 and security and data privacy oversee it rather than do. And so it's like this same shift in like how do you like not how do you do less, but how do
How you work
you
smarter.
work smart, yeah.
I mean,
It's like how do you actually
that saying's always like, oh, work smarter, not harder. But now
yeah.
it's like legitimately, you need to work smarter. Like
Yeah.
you need to use the tools that you have available.
Yes.
And I think that starts with having a culture at your company that is accepted, like it's accepted to use
Yes.
AI to solve problems. Whereas like other companies from either experience or from anecdotal information from other people, it's like, okay, well, we don't want you using AI because you need to be doing the work. Like
Yeah.
we don't want you to be using some other thing to do work. Like you need to do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's like, we don't need another analogy, but here's one. It's like someone saying, hey, go build this house, and you can either use a hammer and like a manual saw, or we'll give you this auto nail gun and a chainsaw. And you're like, well, I'll use the nail gun and the chainsaw. And you're like, well, but like the nail gun might explode. We're not sure. And like the chainsaw might cut your arm off because we're like it might have a power failure, and we might cut your arm off too. So like just be careful because we're not sure. That's kind of what we're saying right now with these AI tools. We're like, here, like use this, but like we're not sure of all the impact or the consequence yet. But like you should use it. And so it's like it's risk. There's risk in it, and it'll probably build the house. You know, probably no one's
Mhm.
gonna get their arm cut off, whatever. But like when something happens, everyone's like, "See, I told you." So it's
Yeah.
like we're in this like transitionary space where everybody knows that they should work smarter, but they don't want to be the one who has the chance to cut their arm off.
Yeah, it's like the person pointing the finger. Oh, I told you so. But
Yeah.
the way that I mean, I do a smaller scale, but the way that I lead the team and just the way I approach it with people is, hey, like if AI is doing something, you got no idea what it's doing, then you shouldn't be using it. But if it's helping you get to 70% faster than you would
Yes.
prior, then
Yeah.
you've saved 70% of the time on the project. So
Correct.
that's a plus.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
like getting to the first wrong answer is faster than doing it yourself. And
Yeah.
so you just do
Yeah.
that, then you optimize whatever the output was prior. And then maybe you, if you're consistently doing that, then you build some kind of agent for yourself and
Yeah.
do it that way. But I think that's
Yeah.
most optimal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
Question about like founder lessons. So you've done this a couple times.
Hmm.
And so do you have any key takeaways from people that are listening to the show and they're like, hey, I want to be a founder one day. RJ is super cool. Like you did the pattern 89 and was
Yeah.
acquired. And then you were early leader at,
Yeah.
the
Exact
name is
target.
eluding
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're doing this. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had some great lessons, to be honest. I like it's like I don't like I would just say the things I've learned. I don't know that they're
mhm.
like advice. I feel like like I have children. People ask that too. Like, what is your advice? I'm like, I don't know. Like everyone's kind of just making it up. You know,
Yeah.
like I can tell you what's worked for me and not worked for me, and
Maybe not
what's it was.
advice. What about your thought process or approach on
Yeah,
different things? I think that's more material. I think you could
yeah.
describe that.
Like yes, yeah, and yeah, I will answer your question. But like lessons, like one, people matter more than you think, and with building Backstroke, I've gotten to work with people that I've worked with before, and
Hmm.
that's been awesome because we kind of get over the part where you get to know you and your quirks and the things you're good at and bad at and
Hmm.
whatever, and it's just like let's just get down to work and know that RJ is not good at that part. Okay, so they
Hmm.
know that I'm not good at that part, so there's no like discovery of that. You kind of like already have the
Yeah, yeah.
shorthand, which is really good. So finding people you love to work with and that you have worked with before. I actually, frankly, don't know how some of these founding teams who like meet each other through founding matchmaking make it work. Like, because you're effectively getting married to that person in a work marriage of sorts. And it's like, you just met them and you like thought they were cool over
Over
like a
Reddit.
hackathon weekend or something. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Like that seems kind of nuts to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I agree.
yeah, and I've gotten burned by that, type of thing in the past. So one, people really, really, really matter. And then the second is like just it's cliche, like just listen to the customer because like the market will say, this is a funny one, Dalton. The market will say AI is taking over the world, AI is eating everyone's lunch, AI is whatever. But like the customers we talk with, that's not the case. They're experimenting, they're trying to learn. And so, kind of what the market says or what you see on social media is very different than what's happening in the trenches. And the case studies or the examples that you see are the first of many, but the first of examples of success. And all of the failures along the way are not displayed in those case studies or on stages or in social media. And all the customers we're working with are finding good successes, but they're also finding a lot of failures. So, working really closely with customers, we have two core values that we think about every day. One is accountability and empathy. And an accountability side, that's kind of clear. Like we're accountable to numbers, we're accountable to metrics and outcomes. But there's
Mhm.
also empathy because we're changing someone's livelihood, changing someone's job. It's scary, it's overwhelming. They're dealing with other things that are outside of work. Um, so I would say really, really listening to customers is the way to win. Um, and then the other one, maybe like the other thing I've learned is, or I've actually wished at some point in my career that like I was less emotional, which sounds like a weird, like I feel very like very high, very low, very, like, and I feel like I'm like, I get off a customer call or customer, like a call like this, and I'm like so excited about what we're doing. And then I go to another customer call and I'm like, shoot, we're doing the wrong thing or we're way off
Mhm.
mark. And then I got another one. I'm like, oh, awesome. And it's so high and low. And everybody describes startups in that way. And it's just true. And I feel like I react to those highs and lows very, you know, like I just react to them, and so then it kind of colors my view. And so I with Backstroke, I know that I do that, so I'm aware of it. I'm a little bit more like, okay, this is the time where I get a little freaked out, or this is the time where I get overexcited about something. Like, so I can recognize those patterns about myself. So with Pattern 89, my previous startup, we successfully exited to Shutterstock. It was great. But I had those highs and lows, and I thought, oh, one day I thought we're going to get acquired by whatever for billions of dollars, and the next day I thought we're doomed. We're never going to make it. Um, and those feelings still come in with Backstroke, but I think, okay, no, I understand what those are. So understanding kind of your response to things is really important, or that's my learning for
To help
myself.
pull you back to baseline, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like, okay, no, I'm allowed to have that emotional response, but like know that like the target that we're on is still legitimate. You don't have to throw everything out, and just know that there's highs and lows every day. So those are things I've learned.
I think those are great. I think those are great. I resonate with things you're saying. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people just sign up to like it's just highs and lows, and like you just got to deal with it, and it's going to affect your day or whatever. But
Yeah,
I think your perspective about like there is the highs and lows that happen, but also recognizing that it's going to have an effect on you, but also recognizing that that effect is temporary and that
yeah,
doesn't that shouldn't deter you from your long term goal and what you signed up with, like signed up
yeah.
for, and who you signed up with.
Yep, yep.
Curious, how do people, if they want to learn more about yourself or Backstroke, should contact you or get involved, or how should they look into
Sure.
Backstroke?
Yeah, so we're just backstroke.com. Just like the swimming stroke, backstroke.com. And I'm RJ at backstroke.com. Check us out. Message me. Love to chat with you more.
Of course. Wherever you are in this world, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thanks for listening, and hope you listen in next week.